Hello, good morning, everyone. Philip Norton here, doing another chart analysis video for you guys. Today we're going to take a look at Micron Technology, very volatile stock. It's been moving pretty good lately. Take a look at the daily chart and see what we're seeing there, and then potentially what patterns and trends we can expect in the next couple of days, and maybe even a little more long term, to see if there's any opportunity there to make a little bit of profit. So the chart in front of you guys, you see here, pretty simple, just a daily candlestick chart. I try to keep my charts pretty clean, easy to read, so we don't get caught up in all of the mess with the millions of different indicators out there. So just a couple of trend lines I've drawn on here that I'll use in today's discussion, as well as two moving averages, the 9 and the 200. So of course, to show me long-term trend versus short-term trend. So as we can see, Micron is down recently. It's had a nice fall from its recent high up here around 65, all the way down now to 47. So the question is the pain over? Will the pain continue? Well, there's a couple of ways to look at it here. The first thing that's pretty noticeable in my mind is we have a head and shoulders pattern. So shoulder, head, shoulder in there. So that would, of course, be a very bearish signal and signal we are looking at the fall. And that now we have our fallen all the way down here. And you notice fell right down here to the 47.15 pivot. Right? So several key points on this pivot, but it also happens to be exactly where it coincides with this long-term trend line. You'll see the trend line actually does cut through. If I switch to the weekly, a little easier to see. Of course, trend lines are all of it, but we do see that really from its recent lows back in mid-2016, the stock kind of follows this trend line. Whenever it breaks it, usually, we'll get back, retest it, and get back through it. Again, you see the fall to the big break, and then an immediate rise, right? So every time it's kind of broken that trend line, we've seen a big kind of push up. So the question then becomes, which of those two things will hold? Will the head and shoulders pattern continue the fall, or will the long-term trend line here hold up in that? So we also need to make account for, though I only like to really look at technicals, that Micron itself is a very cyclical stock, and we'll tend to have these big run-ups and then, for a couple of years and then trend all the way back down. So definitely something to be aware of in that. And so my look on it right now is what I'm seeing is that we did have volume as it broke below the 200 moving average on this head and shoulder pattern, all the way directly down into the dual pivots, right? The trend line and the pivot right in the middle. Today opened a little higher, but so far has fallen down to retouch the trend line again, but it is still holding support. So I actually like it as a buy here, at least in the short term. I actually could see as it holds support here, the stock to make a little bit of a bounce, and it would make sense to come up near the 50 line. We have seen some good kind of action along this 50 line before, which makes sense because it is a $10 amount. 50 is a big deal, which would also happen to be, if we see this over the next couple of days, you're also going to have that influence of the 200-day moving average and the 9 right there around 50 in the next couple of days, probably Monday, Tuesday, and so it makes for a nice little pull, right? That it kind of pull that stock back up into that those trend lines, as well as that $50 pivot in that, and then we may begin to see some consolidation below the 50 and above the trend line in that. So then, as of course it put a little line here. As it goes ahead and pulls back up, then you might see a little consolidation here before deciding to go up or down in that. So what makes the trade easy is there's not a ton of risk at the moment with it, because if I were to put in a bullish move here, I would definitely have this 47.15. Anything under 47, I would be out. So really, right now at 47.66, you're only risking 60 cents, something along that line. But looking at a move up to at least $50 is probably where I would take my next profits, my first profits in that, selling maybe a third or half of the shares, depending on the price action around 50. And potentially you could then, even if it's going to continue down, right? So even if you believe in this head and shoulders pattern and you think that this, with the way that this stock works, is going to continue to trend lower, you would probably see a step down, right? It wouldn't just continue to fall like a rock. It would kind of step down. So you might see a bump to 50, 52, 53 as it kind of pulls up and then pulls down and then pulls up a little bit to 50 and then finally breaks 50, 47 and then continues down, right? So you're going to see kind of these steps down. So even with head and shoulder patterns, you'll usually still get those steps down because it's not a head and shoulder, the whole market could, crash, right? It's more of a change of trend. So even if you believe that there is a change of trend happening here, which the stock does show you that, with the head and shoulders pattern, you could still get in here and take a little bit of a scalp as we seem to have fallen off, to a low of the last kind of move down here to get yourself a little scalp, a little pop. So that's what I'll be looking to do, to take, some short-term options, maybe something for early September at $50 and hopefully get a little scalp here on the move up in the next couple of days. Nothing too long-term for it. And then, of course, watching 47 as your, get out point. All right. Thanks, everyone.